Hey guys, it's your boy Chrysalis here, and this is going to be a continuation of the series Road to the Oscars 2025, where basically, if you haven't been watching the last few videos, which I think you should, I'm going to be covering every movie that came out last year that ended up getting the coveted Best Picture nomination. The award ceremony is going to be on March the 2nd. I'm going to try to get them all done well before then. And for this video, we are going to be covering a little movie called Conclave. Conclave is the latest film directed by German filmmaker Edward Berger, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Probably not. I'm not very familiar with his filmography, which, when I think about it, is kind of a reoccurring theme with so many nominees this time around. But it's also possible that, again, as I'm expanding my understanding of film and expanding my horizons and stuff, I am, of course, going to learn new names. And Edward Berger is definitely one of them. Most notably, to my knowledge, he did a remake of All Quiet on the Western Front. And to my knowledge, that ended up being really well received. So I will definitely be putting that on my radar soon. I will be watching that very soon, hopefully. And it's kind of apt that I'm able to follow the last video, Amelia Perez, with a video about Conclave, because if you know Conclave, then you already know like the deception and the twists and turns and everyone having like some kind of skeletons in their closet. And in a lot of ways that feels like to me a apt description of the Oscars as a whole. Between just Amelia Perez in general, between all the AI stuff about the Brutalist, the intimacy coordinator stuff, Wicked looking the way it does, it just feels like each and every movie has some kind of darkness to them in a way. Well, except for Nickel Boys, but Amazon made it to where it was kind of impossible to watch the movie, so yeah. And I'll be honest, like when this movie came out, I didn't really know what to expect at the time. All I saw was it was a Catholic Pope movie that's supposed to be kind of mysterious, and it was rated PG. Why it was rated PG, I still have no idea to this day. And then I got to watch it back in October, and I was like, wow, this was stellar. This was excellent. And to this day, I still feel that way. Conclave is easily one of my favorite movies of last year. The one thing I do definitely want to give props for and praise the hell out of with this movie is the cinematography and the editing. It is fantastic. All the frames are just, you could literally just take a picture of any of them or just pause, screenshot it or what have you, frame it, and it's just goated. Why this did not get nominated for cinematography is beyond my realm of understanding. I think my favorite shot, of course, is the scene where they're all walking through the rain. They got all the umbrellas, the rain's just drizzling down on them. And between the lighting and the angles with the shots and just how the aspect ratio is and everything, it does a great job at framing a area, a place, and a state of mind of isolation and loneliness, despite how they're all in this together to try to get the Pope elected, or select a new Pope, I mean. It does such a great job at framing the loneliness of all of them. It does a great job at framing what feels like to them just being lost and just feeling like that now that there's no Pope, then where do we go from here? Even though, of course, where they go from there is elect a new Pope, but who's going to be the new Pope? Which I feel is a perfect segue into the story and the writing of the film. In so many ways, the closest all these cardinals and nuns and whatnot have had to God is gone, and what they're left with is just themselves. Each individual cardinal wrestling with the conflict of themselves and the conflict with the possibility of power, as well as, of course, the demons that they all hide and the skeletons that they all have in their closet. And it's all just emphasized greatly by just a wonderful cast, just a perfect casting as a whole. Not just a great cast, but also just well-directed and well-written characters. Stanley Tucci's in this movie. John Lithgow is also in this movie. Isabella Rossellini also in this movie. And Ray Fiennes was exemplary in this movie. It goes without saying before I mention Ray Fiennes that Isabella Rossellini plays such a pivotal role in her supporting role as the nun, as she kind of just moves into the shadows that are perpetuated by all the cardinals that have something to hide. And in her big pivotal scene, she emerges from all of them and denounces Tremblay. I think she's just remarkable in this film, even if she doesn't have like a lot of lines or whatever. He just does just a phenomenal job as being the guy to herd the conclave, steer it into the direction it needs to go in, while also kind of playing the role of Reaper in outing out each individual one that, you know, they just can't be Pope because they've got too much baggage to carry with them. I still go back and I go on YouTube, and to this day I still watch his monologue about certainty. Like that whole scene, as well as numerous other, he's just commands like the screen that you're watching. And what's awesome about all these characters, Ray Fiennes and everyone else, is that each character has a clear archetype, but there's also just something about them that it's clear that maybe they shouldn't be the Pope, they shouldn't be leading the billions of Catholics that are on the planet. And as each and every single one is outed, and even to the very end, it's just twist after twist after twist, and they're all just so well done. Like even like to the very end when it's over and they finally elected a Pope, there's even just one little caveat at the very end, and I'm not going to spoil it. Go watch Conclave. It's worth it. And every character just stands out so incredibly well with their beliefs and their nationalities and everything. Ray Fiennes and Stanley Tucci being both liberals, but one of them is American, one of them is British. Sergio Castellitto, who plays Tedesco, who's this hardcore Italian traditionalist, like, let's all go back to the ways of the Crusades. John Lithgow, who's Canadian and moderate. It just goes on and on and on. The film just does a great job at not just presenting like the literal conclave, but also having a lot of undertones of allegory with just politics as a whole. Even the poignant line that Ray Fiennes says to Stanley Tucci, where he says, "Is this what we are reduced down to? Picking the least worst option." It's just writing like this that just does such a phenomenal job that makes me want to continue to go back to Conclave. And again, just exemplified by the cinematography and the editing that, again, presents this political fiasco in a way. Also, the sound is well done, or rather the lack thereof. It just handles silence so incredibly well. And then also there's like creaking of doors or slamming of doors. That's just further exemplified. And the score is just great, even if a lot of it is like the same theme over and over, but with different variations. It just does a great job of just building the tension throughout the film. But yeah, I can't really think of anything negative to say about Conclave. I think it's pretty close and shut, just a near perfect film. I will say that like the film does a good job at working humor into it, so that way it's not just entirely serious and entirely monotonous. But also simultaneously there are points where it feels like the humor kind of takes you out a little bit, I guess. Like the scene when Cardinal Tremblay's skeletons have been outed out for everyone to see, it just becomes a lot of like drama. Mostly in a good way, but also it's like, okay, what are we doing here? But apart from that, yeah, I loved the hell out of Conclave. I thought it was fantastic. Easily a top 10 film just overall. For Edward Berger's very first film in the English language, he knocked it right out of the park. And I can't wait to explore the German films he put out before this one, especially All Quiet on the Western Front. Even if it's technically a remake, it's still feels to me a super essential film to watch in terms of war movies. But I feel like this film, for a lot of people, is going to be an excellent start in getting into the rest of his movies. But also, like, even if you don't, this film just stands on its own just so incredibly well. Who knew that a movie about electing a pope would be just so interesting, so fascinating, so multi-dimensional with so many layers to it? Yeah, I love the hell out of Conclave. This gets 2 thumbs up for free. Like, if you haven't watched Conclave, it's on Peacock. Go watch it or just buy it physically. Anyhow, if you watched Conclave, what did you think of it? Did you like Conclave, dislike Conclave? And that's about it. Our next film is going to be another banger. It's going to be The Substance. This one's going to be great. This is your boy Chrysalis here, signing off.